Tonight's speaker is Carolyn Catir, and she's a career counselor with the College of Science and Engineering. And she provides guidance to students in job search preparation, career development, exploration, things like that, career coaching, if you will. With a background as a recruiter and hiring manager, Carolyn has many experiences in her role. She has a passion for connecting people with jobs they love and enjoy. And she has a diverse background to help students and professionals navigate their career journeys and the potholes and pitfalls that may come along their way. Carolyn's going to give us a presentation on improving, maximizing, and optimizing career search using AI. Carolyn, I'll let you continue to introduce yourself and begin your presentation. Welcome.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for the warm welcome. I'm excited to be here with you all tonight. Let me get my screen shared. And we'll kick off. Well, I'm excited to be here to talk with you all about this exciting topic of job searching with AI. I'm going to focus mainly on one AI tool in particular, Chat GPT, which many of you may be familiar with. I would love to know kind of your familiarity with this tool and how much you've used it, just to get a sense as we go through who my audience is. So let me launch this tool really quickly. And if you would take just a second to fill out and tell me a little bit about your familiarity with ChatGPT. So to kick things off, I just wanted to go over a quick overview of what we'll be talking about tonight. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to ChatGPT, just to give you an overview of what it is, what it's capable of, and how you can use it. Then we'll talk a little bit about some tips for writing prompts, because what you put into ChatGPT determines the quality of what you get out of it. So got some tips and tricks of how to write good quality prompts to be able to get what you need out of the AI. Then we're going to talk about some different applications of ChatGPT specifically to your job search. So I have been using this for almost a year in different applications through our career services office and in my work with students. And so I'm going to share some of the things I've learned along the way, along with some other tips and tricks that people are using out in the industry and how they're using ChatGPT in their work. And then hopefully I've got a few takeaways that you could use in your mentor pairs after you leave today, some topics for you to discuss amongst each other as you continue to work together. So thanks for filling out that poll. It looks like we have a few people who've never used it, a few people who have an account have maybe played around with it. We've got one person who's in good company, uses it daily. That is the camp I'm in. I feel like I use ChatGPT for so many things. We'll talk about some of the professional uses, but there are a lot of fun things you can do with ChatGPT. It helps me plan my MEA trip with my children to go up to Duluth and give me some great ideas. So you can use it for travel planning, meal planning, all kinds of great things. So we'll keep it on the topic of job search tonight, but just know that there's a lot you can do with these tools. So jumping into it, ChatGPT, there are many different AI tools out there that you can use. They've all kind of been coming out in rapid succession. You've probably heard of some of them. ChatGPT seems to be kind of the one that was out there first and was the forerunner in this area, but you've probably also heard of Bard. There's Google Chat GPT. You'll start to see, if you haven't already, a lot of programs are integrating AI within them. So Canva, a very popular graphic design tool, has embedded AI into it. The software Grammarly, if you use that, it's starting to use predictive AI in your email. So I get a little pop-up in my email box now that's got some AI built into the Grammarly site. So lots of different applications for using AI. And you know, as I mentioned, tonight I'm going to focus mainly on ChatGPT, but a lot of these tools can be applied to these other platforms as well. So again, the prompting really matters, and then some of the other downfalls of ChatGPT kind of apply to this other group of things. So we'll talk through that too. This is the website for ChatGPT. It's put on by OpenAI. That's the host of it. They're the creators. So if you don't have an account already, you can go to Chat OpenAI. You can opt into a free account. And that's the account I use. I haven't upgraded to a paid account yet, and I get plenty of what I need from just the free version. So if you're interested in a lot of the plugins, the add-ons, there's one for the company Shift. If you pay for the advanced ChatGPT platform, you can then use a Shift plugin to make a meal plan, order your groceries, and have them delivered all through the system. So if you want to upgrade, that's an option, but the free version gets the job done, and you can use all the things we're going to talk about tonight with just the free version. So what is this thing called ChatGPT? Just to kind of get us all on the same page, really, ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence language model. It was designed to generate human-like text based on the input that it gets. So it can answer questions, assist with tasks, provide information on various topics using this natural kind of conversational feeling language. It's important to remember, though, this is not actually a human, even though it feels like you're talking to one sometimes. That is not, there is no human at a little keyboard responding to you. This is all based on algorithms and sweeping of the resources on basically the whole internet. So sometimes people think it's similar to the customer service chatbots you've maybe interacted with. So if your internet goes down and you hop online and you start chatting with the customer service chat, a lot of times you'll get these sort of canned responses. And what that's doing is it's searching the keywords of what you're putting in and replying with pre-programmed responses that the company has determined based on common problems that come up. So those customer service chatbots are a little bit different because they're pulling from a very small specific pool of answers, where ChatGPT is pulling from all of the internet, from everything up until about this most recent September. So September of 2023, last I asked ChatGPT how good its information was. That's what it told me. So again, if you use the paid version, and Bard is a little bit more updated, Bard will pull from current events, but ChatGPT might not be up on all the current events. I asked it recently who Taylor Swift's boyfriend was, and it didn't know the correct answer. And we all know the correct answer to that these days, right? So be cautious and careful, and make sure that you're fact checking your ChatGPT information. Just a big caution out there for you as you're moving through. So big point here, I just really want to emphasize, and you'll hear me say it over and over again, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but this is a tool that's meant to enhance or assist, not replace, your creativity, your skills, your human relationships. This is just a way to have access to some information in what feels like a conversational way to generate new ideas, to perfect things you've already come up with, but it can't replace the humans in your life or your own creativity. So what can we do with this thing, this big platform? It's got all these resources. You're hearing all these things. So I'm going to go through just a few. You can use it to create, like I mentioned. You can use it to plan. It's a great brainstorming tool. We've used it a lot in our office to come up with marketing, because we aren't the marketing department, but sometimes we need a good slogan or a good title for a presentation. And so it can be really helpful in working through that brainstorming process. We have a professional development session that we do over lunch that a lot of people would call a lunch and learn. And so we asked ChatGPT for some new names for that, and it came up with Snack on Facts. So that's our lunchtime gathering title. So lots of things you can do around that idea generation, brainstorming through ChatGPT if you're kind of stuck in a idea generation. So really, it can be a great time saver. It can be a great way to get started, and again, to kind of draft and come up with a place to get your creative juices flowing as you're working on different documents. And what we're going to spend most of our time talking about tonight is it can help you with your job search process in pretty much every level of the job search process. So I'm going to focus on 5 here tonight, and we'll go through those in just a minute. There are some concerns. So there are, biases within ChatGPT that it's important to be aware of. And there's ethical considerations to think about. So if you're using ChatGPT and you're copying and pasting into your resume, What does that mean? If you copy and paste one bullet point, what does that mean? What does it mean if you copy and paste the entire resume that ChatGPT comes up with? So really thinking about how to use it appropriately, how to cite things appropriately, giving credit to ChatGPT, and still honoring the intention of what a resume or a cover letter is looking for. Part of what an employer is looking for through those documents is that you can write and that you can talk about your experiences. So if you're just using a tool like this to come up with everything, are you really representing yourself well? So really thinking about this as more of a drafting tool, as more of a place to help you get started or to refine or to adapt is really how we want to use this during our job search. There are other common ways that ChatGPT is used. You can use it for storytelling or poetry. A lot of people are using it to write songs or copy for social media. So lots of ways that you can use it to draft ideas. But just keep in mind, as I mentioned before, the information can be a little bit behind if you're using one of the free versions. So be aware and make sure you're fact checking. Okay, I'm going to go through just quickly some of the benefits of this. So one of the things that I think ChatGPT is great for is really moving us beyond the dreaded blank page, right? So you sit down, you've got to get something started, and you're staring at this blank Word document or this blank Google Doc, and what are you going to fill this page with? And so that's when you could turn to ChatGPT for some assistance. It can help spark your creativity, provide a starting point for your thoughts, and really get you moving on some of these job search documents that you don't have to write very often. Writing cover letters is not something we do every day. So staring at a blank screen, trying to think of how to start that, ChatGPT can be a great way to get that going. You can use it to expand upon or reduce what you already have written. So whether you need to elaborate on your experiences or streamline them, ChatGPT can help you adapt that. So it's really good at doing both of those things, at summarizing or also expanding upon. So you can use it for either of those things. You can also use it to customize. So you'll hear this a lot when you meet with a career counselor or a career coach. They'll tell you the best way to stand out in a job search is to customize your materials, customize your resume, customize your approach when you walk up and introduce yourself at the career fair. We're all about standing out and being unique. And sometimes that can feel like a really daunting task. So ChatGPT can help you take those pieces and customize them for a particular job or for a particular industry. If you're looking to make a career change or a shift, it can really help you customize your materials to a different industry. So lots of applications of that as well. The other benefit is that there's some accessibility here. So in CSE, we have career counselors that are available to all students, but we're not available all the time. So this is another tool that you could use to access some of this career information after hours. If you're up in the middle of the night and you're working on your resume, there's ChatGPT as a great option to lean on. And it's there all the time, 24/7 to be able to reach out to. So makes it convenient and accessible. So a few of the challenges, because of course it's not perfect. One thing to be aware of is that it can be a little impersonal or generic. While it does aid in being able to customize things, there can be some generic responses or canned responses that it puts out. So if you just ask it for some general resume bullet points about XYZ position, it'll give you some generic resume bullets, but you really need to go in then and customize them and make them yours. It is still a computer program after all. This isn't actually a person. So there can be this sort of clinical feeling to some of its responses. The one thing I like to say is like ChatGPT can be kind of a liar. So be aware that it will falsify some data and some information. So it's not perfect. It is really good at making you think what it's saying is true. It's been known to create false citations. So if you're asking it to cite journal articles, it can make up journal articles that seem very legitimate titles, legitimate publications. And they're not when you go to look them up. So you'll hear me say it again, but make sure you are fact checking ChatGPT and checking that the information it's giving you is accurate. And it's pretty good, and it's usually pretty reliable, but you really do want to make sure you're checking it. And like I said, it can't replace a person. So it's a really powerful tool, but it cannot replace the empathy and the understanding that the human connection brings. So using this as a part of those relationships or as a starting point, and then getting a real person to review your materials or to help you with your job search is still invaluable, even with the tools that we have available to us today. Oh, my slide's not advancing. Hang on. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to go over a few tips for writing prompts. Like I said in the beginning, having what you put into ChatGPT is going to help determine how good what you get out is. So here are a few tips, things that I found to be really helpful, things that other people have recommended as they've used it. Being really precise is important, being clear and specific about what you're asking of ChatGPT. So instead of just asking generally, I mean, you can put in just resume tips into your chat. And it generates a pretty good generic list of some resume tips, some formatting suggestions, but you're going to get so much more out of it if you ask a really specific question. So something like, what are key elements of an effective mechanical engineering resume? You're going to get a lot more tailored response if that is the kind of resume you're creating. You can also be directive with the context that you're giving ChatGPT. So you can tell ChatGPT how you want it to respond to you. So you can say things like, you are a junior in college studying mechanical engineering. How would you describe this experience on a resume? And you could write out your internship experience. And then it'll answer you as if it is a junior in college. You can say to it, you're a career counselor. What kind of feedback would you give me on this resume? So you could say, you're a hiring manager. Would you give me an interview for this job based on my resume? And so you can be really directive with how you want it to respond and act in its responses to you. And that can be kind of fun to play around with to see what it says. You do want to use complete sentences and grammar, good spelling whenever you can. It helps improve your results that you get. Although it's pretty good at figuring out what you mean, you'll get better results if you're more consistent with that. Asking open-ended questions and breaking down complicated requests. So you can ask it very pointed, close-ended questions like, what is the capital?
Carolyn, I think you froze. Can you hear us?
To be a much better purpose for
Carolyn, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can.
You just froze right when you
shoot.
were going to give an example of a non-open-ended question. So
okay,
can you pick it back up from there?
Yep, am I back?
Yes, you're back now. Thank you.
Oh, that always happens, right? Only because I'm presenting. Okay. So you could ask it something like, what's the capital of the United States? And it'll tell you, just like you would ask Google. You could do close-ended searches like that. And it'll tell you information, with pretty good accuracy. But it's just not the best purpose or use for it. So really using this when you have open-ended questions that you can't find. It's just a simple Google search. And when you want something generated that you can adapt or draft from. Let's see. You can provide examples or guidelines. So sometimes something that can be helpful is to provide a sample of some of your writing or pieces of your resume that you've already created and say, this is some of my resume. I'm looking to add some more bullet points. Can you match my tone and style of writing as we add more? And that can be really helpful. You can also, after it provides you feedback, you can say to it, can you use a more casual tone here? Could you make this more formal? And you can really direct it on how you want it to respond to you. You can ask for the information to be given to you in different formatting. So you can ask for tables, bullet points, lists, and you can continue to refine the prompts that you've given it. And there is a regenerate button. So if you like the prompt you used, but you don't like what it gave you, you can hit regenerate and it'll refresh and give you another option. I did a little bit of digging on this one. Politeness matters. They do say that if you're nice to ChatGPT, you get better results. I'm always very kind to my ChatGPT and say please and thank you whenever I can. You never know what these things are going to end up doing, so we should probably be nice to these robots. But in my research, I did find that it does matter, and that it does give you better results if you're nice and you say please every once in a while. So let's talk about some applications that you can use as you're moving through your job search. These are going to be the 5 examples we go through, and I'll try to breeze through them pretty quick here. But we've got some ways that you can use ChatGPT to assist in all of these, and there's many, many more applications. The first one I'm going to talk about is job search strategies. So you could use ChatGPT at really any level or any point in your job search. So one of the first ones that you could start using it for is to explore different types of majors and careers. So depending on where you're at in your career and what you're thinking about, you could ask it to come up with a list of job titles for a particular major that you're interested in. And it's really good at letting you know what are some of the people that have your major, what are they doing as their job title. You can also use it to compare and contrast majors and job titles. So there are a few majors within the College of Science and Engineering that are pretty similar, and ChatGPT can help you discern what the differences are and what those would look like in a real world application. It's also really good at helping you understand a job description. You could give me a thumbs up if you've ever read a job description and you were like, I have no idea what this job is. Sometimes the language we use in job descriptions can be really confusing and hard to figure out exactly what that job would look like day to day. So asking ChatGPT, what does this job actually entail? What could I expect from a position like this? And then another thing you could use this for is for brainstorming and overcoming troubleshooting things that come up during your job search. So every once in a while, I work with a student who's applied to a lot of internships and hasn't heard anything back. Asking ChatGPT, why not? Uploading the copy of your resume and asking if it sees anything. I put this prompt in earlier and it gave me some really good suggestions, things very similar to what I would tell a student if they were coming across an issue like this. So it can be a really good place to get started, and then working through what it suggests with your mentor or with a career counselor can be really beneficial. So I'm going to show just a quick example of what this looks like. So I put in this prompt. I'm a computer science major. What are some common job titles? So that prompt I shared earlier as an example. And ChatGPT gives you this great list of 15 job titles that are commonly associated with computer science majors. I put that same prompt into Google just to kind of show you the difference between using a search engine versus using ChatGPT. And what you'll see is there are millions of results to this simple question that you would have to sift through. You can even see just on this first page, there's one article with 12 top jobs, one with 10, one with 13. And so that's a lot of information to sift through. And what ChatGPT can do is save you a little bit of time, pull that information together and give you a starting place. So once you see this list, maybe cybersecurity analyst sounds like a fit for you. Then you could take that information, go on to Google and do some research and reading, or you could ask ChatGPT, cybersecurity, machine learning engineer, and network engineer all sound really interesting to me. Could you explain the differences and tell me how I could learn more about each of those? And it'll give you information. So really powerful tools and ways to feel like you're kind of talking to someone and that there's a back and forth instead of falling down a rabbit hole of clicking and clicking and clicking on a search. The other example I thought I'd show real quick is that piece of understanding a job description. So I took a job description from Handshake, and I put in this prompt: can you please summarize this job description and pull out keywords I should use in my resume? Pasted the job description in, and you get this nice little summary. Tells you a little bit about the position, breaks down the components of it. And then I should have followed my own advice here, but I didn't. But it still turned out okay. But if I were going to do this again, I would break it into 2 prompts. After I got this information, I would ask a second question. But for the sake of this, I'll just show you. These were the keywords then it suggested that I include in my resume if I was applying for this job. And so this can be really helpful as we're navigating what are called applicant tracking systems. When we apply for jobs, companies use applicant tracking systems to be able to follow our application through the system. Sometimes they use it for filtering for keywords and ranking candidates that they want to interview. And so using ChatGPT with the job description to figure out what are some of those keywords those applicant tracking systems may be looking for can really put you in an advantage to moving through the process quicker than other candidates. So it can be a great way to utilize this system to do that. There are many, many applications you could use for resumes. One of them is drafting content for your resume. So I think this is really important as you move through your career and you start to get more experience. Sometimes your resume requires a summary, and coming up with what that summary of your top qualifications is can be a really hard exercise for us to do personally, right? So thinking back over your career, what are some of the highlights and how do they match this particular job you're applying for? So ChatGPT is great at taking your resume and helping you come up with what that summary could look like. You could also put in your resume, get a summary, and then ask it to adapt it or customize it to match a particular job description by uploading the job description. So lots of applications there as well. For work experience, it can be really helpful when you're trying to come up with your skill statement. So those bullet points that describe the skills you've gained and the actions that you completed in your job. ChatGPT is really helpful in helping you come up with what that content could look like. So you can put in a prompt similar to this. I was an intern at a particular company in this field. My main responsibilities were XYZ, and ask it to draft you some skill statements. And then from there, this goes back to my caution at the beginning, which is to really make sure what it's saying were things you actually did in that internship, right? Because it'll make up a lot of things that maybe you did or didn't do, but it'll give you a starting point to look at and to think about and to help reflect on what experiences did you have and how do they contribute to what you're going to be doing next. Same thing with project experience. So you can describe the project that you worked on, particular skills you'd like to highlight, and then ask it to write you statements for your projects as well. And I've got an example of that here in a minute. You can use it to tailor particular sections of your resume or your whole resume to particular job postings. So this was one of the things I mentioned earlier, but that customization piece can be really daunting and overwhelming and something we want to do to be able to stand out in a job search. But sometimes how to do that can be hard. So asking ChatGPT to help you determine key skills, ways to show your transferable skills through your different work experiences and how they relate to positions that you're applying for. So a couple examples here of how to do that. All the italics on my slides, if you're looking at this later, all the italics are examples of prompts that you can use for ChatGPT. Another great thing that ChatGPT can help you do is incorporate feedback or revisions that you get on your resume. So if you meet with one of us in career services or you meet with your mentor and you get some feedback on your documents, ChatGPT can help you incorporate that feedback into your resume. So if you get the feedback that you need more strong active verbs, or you need to be more concise, or you need to elaborate on things, you can ask ChatGPT to help you incorporate that feedback into your resume. So I have a resume example here for you. Again, I was a little nervous about doing live demos, so I have one on the next topic, but I have a few screenshots here to share with you. So the prompt here was, I'm a college student applying for internships. Can you help me write 3 skill statements for my resume about my sales associate position to show applicable transferable skills? So sometimes we have a hard time seeing, how did our retail or restaurant job, how did that help prepare me to be a really strong technical intern in engineering or in science? How can I show that I have some of these really important skills through a job that feels really unrelated? So asking ChatGPT to help do that kind of translation for you and come up with some of these bullet points can be a really great starting point. So you would again want to read these and see which applied to you, and add in details. So without much of prompting, you can get some really good statements, but they're missing results. They're missing how many people you worked with, what were your customer satisfaction, loyalty goals that you met. So you can add those additional details into your resume. But again, this is a great place to get you started, get some ideas going, and to help you think of the skills that you gained in these positions. So cover letters, this can be a part of the job search that people dread doing, but it's a really great way to showcase how your qualifications meet the job description. So using ChatGPT again to customize based on the job that you're applying for. You can also have it pick out some of the key achievements from your resume. So how could you talk about these things in a cover letter that is tailored to a particular job or the industry that you're applying for? You can also use it to draft ideas for, how could I appropriately express my enthusiasm for this position? If you have employment gaps or you are making a career change, it can help you kind of find some language around that. Sometimes those things are hard to explain, especially in a concise cover letter. So ChatGPT can help you write sections like that of your cover letter. I did want to do just one demo, so I'm going to shift screens here for just a second. And I'm still sharing, right? Okay. I was just going to show you what it looks like when you are in ChatGPT. You always want to open a new chat when you're starting a new topic. So ChatGPT has a memory, and anything that is in your current chat is going to incorporate into your questions. And so you want to start a fresh chat for anything that you are going to be changing topics on. So I just pulled one of our job descriptions from Handshake again, and I'm going to put it here in the chat. Just if you haven't used ChatGPT, I just think it's really fun to see how quickly this works. So it said, how can I align my cover letter with specific requirements and qualifications mentioned in the job description below for this internship position? And then I posted the internship position, and you can see how quickly ChatGPT will respond to you and give you some really good examples, some tips about how to write it, an example of how to do it, and it'll go through. You can also ask it to create a template for you for a cover letter, but I think it's really cool just to kind of see it work. So after you read through this, you could ask it more questions. And again, it's going to remember that initial job description to be able to draw from as you are as you're working with it. So just wanted to show that quick one. I think it's really cool to see it in action. So if you haven't done any kind of playing around with ChatGPT, I would highly encourage you to go out there and give it a shot and play around with it. It's really fun to just see how quickly it works. So just a few more quick things here about other ways you can use it. Interviewing can be a fantastic use for ChatGPT. I just really started delving into this recently, and it's incredible what it can do. You can ask it to generate questions based on a specific job description. It's really good at predicting some of the technical interview questions you may be asked. You can ask it to actually simulate a practice interview with you. So you can say, I'm interviewing for this job, please ask me a question, and then pause. And so it'll ask you the first question, and then you could sit in front of your computer and either speak it out loud to just kind of say the words, or you could type in an answer and then it'll respond with another question to kind of simulate a practice interview. So that can be a really great use if you're getting ready to prepare for interviews. It uses the STAR method of answering behavioral questions, which is a method that we use in our office and help coach students on. And so it's great that that's embedded. It's a pretty common way of answering behavioral questions. And it will, if you put in an interview answer, it'll help you put it into that format. So STAR is an acronym for how to answer behavioral questions. It'll help you get your answers into that format. And it can also be helpful if you're kind of unsure of a question you're going to be asked. You can ask it, how would you answer this? How do I talk about a career gap? How could I talk about a situation that didn't turn out the way I thought it would? And it gives really good advice on that. So can be a good tool in that way as well. Here's an example. I asked it to generate some behavioral questions, again, specifying that it was for an electrical engineer. And it gives you some, I asked it to also give me tips on how to answer it. So it gave me some questions and then a quick little tip about each one on how to focus my answer to be able to have really strong, solid answers for my interview. Okay, and then our last category for tonight that I wanted to highlight is networking and professional correspondences. So one of the big scary words is networking. It can be really intimidating to approach some of these situations or to do some cold emailing, to reach out to ask for informational interviews or just to get to know people. And if there isn't a warm introduction, sometimes that can feel overwhelming. So ChatGPT can help you write those emails. It's also great at helping to summarize information. So I use this a lot with students when we're trying to work on LinkedIn profiles. So trying to come up with really good summaries for your About Me section. If you don't know this already, the AI embedded within LinkedIn uses the About Me section as one of its places that it scans for keywords when it's looking for candidates to refer to recruiters. So it's really important to put some keywords in that About Me section. And you can do that by asking ChatGPT, what are some of the words that I could incorporate into my LinkedIn summary? It's how I wrote my LinkedIn summary, as I asked ChatGPT to summarize my resume and give me an About Me, and it does a really nice job of that. So great tools for preparing those networking social media presence. You can also have it help you draft really any kind of documents that you would need during any kind of correspondences you would need during your interview process. So sending thank you notes or following up on job applications you haven't heard back from. Again, with requesting informational interviews. You can also use this to draft emails or create templates. So a lot of times we find ourselves sending out the same email or responding in similar ways. So a quick shortcut would be to have ChatGPT write a template that sounds like something you've written in your voice if you give it a few prompts, and it'll come up with a great template that you could then save into your Gmail as something to do quick auto responses with. And then for the career fair or for other networking events, we always recommend having a strong elevator pitch. So that quick minute that you're going to introduce yourself. Again, ChatGPT can look over your resume and you develop that. If you ask it to write you a script for an elevator pitch based on your resume, it gives you a great script that you could then tweak and change and make your own to be able to practice and then deliver when you attend those networking events. So this was my example here, was just asking it for networking strategies or things that you could do in a particular industry. So it gives you this great list of ideas of how you could go out and engage in networking. And one of my kind of ideas for how you would follow up with this, if you were using this as a student, is this would be a great thing to ask ChatGPT and then check in with your mentor and see, is this really what's happening in the industry? Are these really good ways to network? Is this, this could be a really good conversation, I think, for y'all after this, is to see, ask ChatGPT some questions that are applicable to you and what you're doing, and then see what your mentor thinks of this. And if ChatGPT is really being as accurate as we think it is. So Just some final notes, important considerations. Just remember ChatGPT is a part of your job search. It does not replace your own unique thoughts and what you bring to the table. You have to verify everything that it tells you. Make sure you're proofreading it. Be really mindful of those biases. Be mindful of privacy too. So make sure you're thinking about what you're putting into it and that you're being mindful of your own kind of boundaries around those things and other people's as well. And just again, remember that it lacks that personal touch that can't be replaced, that it can't replace the career counselors and the mentors that are in your and your faculty members that are in your life. So be sure to incorporate the things that you're doing with the people around you. So a few ideas for y'all as you leave here tonight. I think it would be fun for you to share with each other, you know, how much you're using ChatGPT, if you use it for anything, what you're using it for within the context of a job search or not. I think it would be really interesting to create some content using ChatGPT, share it with each other. Maybe you make a section of your resume using it and a section of your resume not using it and see if the other person could tell which was which. I think that'd be a fun exercise. And then you could also use it together if you are, you know, helping prepare for interviews or assisting with other job search pieces of your job search. You could use this together to kind of work through and troubleshoot some of the things that are coming up. So that is it from me. Thanks for listening to me talk about ChatGPT. This is a topic that I love. I am not a tech expert, but I am really interested in this particular aspect of how we can use technology to make our lives a little bit easier, and appreciate you all listening. Hope you learned something tonight. Hope you can take away a little nugget of how you can make your job search materials stronger. So I'll open it up now for questions and let me know how I can help. I'll do my best to answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And Carolyn let me know that she's going to be sharing her slide deck so that Katie and I can distribute it when we send around the recording. So if you missed writing down all those prompts and things and you'd like to be able to refer to them for ideas later, you'll be able to look back at Carolyn's slides. So thank you, Carolyn, for making that available. I was starting to write down all the prompts myself and then thought, wait, I don't need to do this. So that's very appreciated. We have about, I think, 15 minutes for questions. So if folks have questions, you can type them in the chat or the Q&A, and Katie and I are going to work on starting to pose those to Carolyn. And I know we had a first one come in. Katie, do you want to pose that one? And then I'll look up another one.
Yes. So Carolyn, you touched on this briefly, but the question was, what ethical pitfalls should we stay away from? And do we need to disclose AI use in every instance?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. And I think it's something we're all kind of figuring out together right now, right? So there are definitely concerns around how much of this is should be credited, how much do you have to change to take credit for it? And so great question to pose to the people around you. I think in a job search, if you're using it on your job search documents, it's pretty tricky to disclose that, right? Like, how would that practically look in the footer of a resume to say this resume was created with ChatGPT? Is something we're working on in our office too, is to decide when we create handouts or we create presentations like today. You see, I cited ChatGPT on my last slide because I used it to help create this presentation. So when it's appropriate to really cite it, and you can ask ChatGPT, how can I cite ChatGPT on this work? It will give you some guidelines for doing that. So there's a lot to think about here. There's, legislation talk, there's parameters being put up. So use your best judgment as to when it feels appropriate to give credit where credit's due, and when did you just use this as a tool for coming up with ideas? And would it have been different than if you had talked to a colleague or a friend? you don't always give credit for those kind of things. So how we do this moving forward, I think, is evolving, and a question we're all kind of trying to figure out together.
Thank you. I have a follow-up from that one. Have you ever seen a situation where a student had negative consequences from using Chat GPT? So I'm thinking, for example, like a recruiter comes back to them and says, I have a feeling you didn't write this cover letter, or your resume doesn't seem genuine, so we're not interested in interviewing you. Have you ever seen a situation like that? Or how might you counsel a student to avoid something like that?
Yeah, I haven't seen a real life example of that yet. I think we're still just so new in this territory that I don't think it's probably happened enough for it to come up on my radar. However, I am sure that there are cases out there where people are reading things and giving pause, right? So I've had those moments in reviews with students on resumes of reading a bullet point and thinking, this doesn't sound like the rest of the bullet points. And so I'll ask, did you use AI or ChatGPT? And sometimes the answer is yes. And so what I always encourage students to do is that's why having another person read over these documents and still incorporating feedback from others can be really important, because you might not hear it or see it or pick up on it, but someone else that's reading your document for the first time may be able to detect that better than you. So still really good. And I would encourage you to make sure that your final draft is reviewed by a person. The other piece, I was listening to a podcast, and I can link to that when I share out my slides too. There was a great podcast I listened to about ChatGPT, and they talked about how while faculty members are moving to use some AI detection, it probably won't be very long before industry starts to do some of that. Haven't heard of many cases where they're using like official software to detect AI generation, but that is probably on the horizon. So again, something to be mindful of. Make sure you really are changing and adapting the information that it gives you to make it your own.
We have another one. Does ChatGPT encourage users to become lazy in their original creative thoughts? Can it become a crutch rather than a tool?
Yeah, I guess it could, and I think that's one of the arguments against it. But I don't feel that way. I don't think that it is. I think that it can be used in a way to just enhance what's already happening, and to encourage us. You still have to prompt it, right? So there has to be some spark, some need, some creativity to be able to get output. Like, it's not just sitting there sending you ideas. You have to be putting into it to get out of it. So I don't think it completely eliminates the elements that you need to be creative and to think through some of these things.
All right, I've got another question. So we talked about this a little bit. Maybe you'll have some more tips on how we can better do this. But it says, knowing it's an associative word model, how much authority should we give its responses? It's good at outputting sentences, but sometimes they don't mean much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I guess it's kind of hard. I don't know if I can quantify how much to put into it, but again, that's why I think it's good at using it as a starting place, or using it as a place to get you motivated and moving. Because yeah, sometimes it does spit out some nonsense. It is definitely not just a copy and paste whatever it says sort of application. And doing, like I shared that example of the job titles that it can generate for you. So using it in a way to help you, with a starting point for your own individual research can be good. So yeah, use it to generate basic ideas, and then take those ideas and expand upon them through other research, through other searches that you do, through conversation with real people who can help you come up with more creative ideas, or expand upon what it said. So I think approaching it as a starting point is probably a good, healthy perspective to have on it, as opposed to going to it as the all-knower that can tell you everything you're looking for.
I have another one. It seems like being able to craft the right prompt is really key to this exercise. So is there training or resources online that you'd recommend if before people dive into this, they take a look at YouTube videos that you found helpful, et cetera?
Yeah, there are some really great prompting handouts that individuals are creating and posting on LinkedIn. So if you follow a few I can add that to my list of resources too. A few LinkedIn accounts that are really helpful. I just saw another one this week actually of some good models for how to create prompts. You can actually ask ChatGPT what good prompts are, and it gives you ideas for good prompts too. So don't be afraid to ask it. You could say, I am, job searching and I need advice on interviewing. What are some good prompts I could use for ChatGPT to help me do that? And ChatGPT will then give you the prompts to then ask back to it. So that would be another avenue for exploring those things. And it'll give you tips on how to write the prompts as well.
Right. I think we've gotten to the end of our questions. Does anyone else have an additional question? If you do, you can raise your hand and we'll let you unmute and ask since we still have a few minutes left. Let's give it another few seconds in case. I know it can be hard to find those raise hand buttons when you're under pressure. All right. Well, if we have no other questions, just a reminder, we will be including Carolyn's email address in the follow-up email we send. So if you think of other questions or are looking for other resources, you can feel free to contact her directly. So Katie, I think you can go ahead and share our final couple slides and we'll get this wrapped up so people can go along with their evening. You can go to the next one, Katie, since now we all know who Carolyn is. Okay, so before we leave, I just wanted to let everyone know what our next event is going to be for the mentor program. It'll be coming up on February 13th in Kaufman Union. So this will be an in-person event and it's our mid-year event. If you participated in the program last year, it will be based on what we did last year. It'll be a chance for mentors and students to network with and get to know other mentors and students in our program. So we'll have some guided rotations, some discussion points, snacks, and it should be a casual way to do a little bit of network expanding. So watch for an email later in the month with more details and a link to register, and we'll also share that in January. And I also, of course, want to remind you that if you're looking for resources on things to talk about with your mentor, recordings of past events like this one, and other resources, you can always look at the Mentor Materials webpage, which is csE.umn.edu/mentor materials. We have quite a few different recordings and resources on there. So I know after a few months and you've kind of covered some of the initial things you thought you'd talk about with your mentor, now can be a time when you're starting to get a little low on ideas. So that's a great resource for you. And finally, I always want to remind you again of Katie and my contact information. We are here to help you and make sure you get the most out of the program this year. So if there's anything we can do to help or assist you, please feel free to contact us at any time, and we're happy to do what we can to make sure you have the best year possible. So with that, I just want to thank Carolyn once again for sharing all of this wonderful information and for making her slides available to us. Carolyn, we're really pleased you were able to partner with us on this program. So thank you once again for being here tonight. And thank you all of you for being here tonight. I hope you found it helpful and got some tips and maybe learned something you hadn't already known before. I know I learned a lot. I've never even been on Chat GPT, so this was all new to me. And with that, I just want to thank you all once again for being part of the mentor program and wish you all a wonderful evening. Thanks again and have a great night.